Welcome back to Market Watch. Now, Beijing yesterday made another minor adjustment to its capital account policies by announcing a plan to allow banks in Hong Kong to accept deposits in the Chinese yuan. The banks can also make remittances and exchange the Chinese currency for Hong Kong dollars from the end of this year or maybe early next year. And Beijing will also allow yuan-denominated credit cards to be used in Hong Kong. The move hopefully might open a new channel for funds to flow out of the mainland. Huge inflows of foreign currency are putting tremendous pressure on the renminbi to appreciate lately. But is that channel going to be wide enough to make any difference to the level of currencies around the region? Let's get more with Philip Chan, Research Director at Shenwan Securities, who joins us from our Hong Kong studio. Philip, thanks a lot for being with us. And let's just get your impression of exactly what these moves add up to.
They're good. They're good small positive moves, because there's been pressure on them to do something with this issue. Since we've had a large inflow of tourists, just tourists spending money here, and it's been highlighted because of that over these last these few months, particularly post SARS. However, it's not going to make a big difference in the short run. What people are trying to focus on is perhaps introducing the QDII scheme, which has been talked about for some time, which is allowing, more domestic funds within China to invest in the Hong Kong market.
Realistically, and it's being reflected in the market today, ahead of the formal announcement, Bank of China Hong Kong ran up very nicely. Some of the other banks got some action as well. The banks were looking for considerably more, weren't they? I mean, they were looking for trade financing, they were looking for industrial loans, that sort of thing. I mean, money changing is not exactly a high margin business.
No, that's what I mean. With China, it's always a step-by-step basis, and that they're going to tread cautiously on this front, and they're not. What I mean is they're not going to be introducing measures at the pace that people would want them, and that's always been the case with China.
Do you think, is it going to amount to more? I mean, do you see convergence between the two banking systems sometime down the line? We'd rather not have mainland bad loans in our system here, obviously, but are we going to see this stepped up? I mean, this is a trial. This is sort of a prototype.
Yeah. Yes. Well, we're gonna have more integration again, but it's gonna be fueled a little bit by market pressures, but also, as I've said, the staged way that China likes to do things. But in terms of the unification you're talking about, it's still years away.
As you say, Philip, the Chinese do like to do things on a step-by-step basis, slowly, considered manner. The question here is, how's it going to go down in the West? Because oftentimes you do see the US and Western critics not really seeing that path and just saying they're stalling, they're not doing it quickly enough. The way forward is clear as far as we are concerned. Do you think this is actually going to make any difference in this row going on between China and the US over the value of the yuan?
Not in the short run, no. I think that China will still stick to the stance that they're taking. They basically, because they, I guess, with the stance that they're taking, they just feel that the government has to stand firm and deal with, say, the West in the way they feel they should. Of course, in an appropriate manner and in the way that, say, the West would like, but but it will do it in its own way.
President Bush, as you know from overnight, is pandering to domestic politics once again. Straight after the steel issue, which still isn't resolved now, they're talking about Chinese bras and textiles as well. Now, we do have a number, the factories may be across the border, but a number of the listed players, like the Fountain Sets, the Glorious Suns, the Tex Winkas, are really falling apart today. Are you as concerned as the market seems to be about this kind of belly aching that's going on?
It's just a short-term phenomenon. These stocks have done well in the run-up that we've had in the market in general. So little shocks like this are just short term. The liquidity and sentiment on China still remains strong. I don't see that that's going to affect it over the next 2 quarters, probably.
All right, Philip, just finally, a little bit of speculation. Now, as you say, it's going to take some time for the entire thing to culminate in a situation where everyone is happy. But given the fact that we know it's going to be progressive and slow, surely it must be reasonably easy to guess what their next step might be.
No. If it was that easy to guess, then we'd been able to, we'd be able to track the course or make good predictions, which are timely, and our track record would be even better.
Well, like I said, the time is not the issue here, simply the logic, the flow
yeah.
of the logic.
The flow of the logic, yes, is always correct as we see it in the West, but China, as I said, doesn't always see things that way. Otherwise, for instance, just to take an example, QFII was introduced beginning of last year. Logically, it might have been better to introduce QDII first, from the West point of view.
Right.
But of course, from China's point of view, they want to actually get more money coming in to invest in China. Therefore, they introduced QFII first, which does not seem quite logical from the West, but that's what they did.
All right. Philip, we'll leave it there. Thanks a lot for talking to us today.
Great. Thanks.
Philip Chan is Research Director at Shenwan Securities in our Hong Kong studio. After this break, we'll talk about Indonesia.